Hello and welcome to Learn to Drive the Easy Way. I'm approved driving instructor Michael Gambin and I'm going to show you how to drive manual, automatic and cars fitted with disability controls in the easiest way possible. So sit back, relax and enjoy. And remember to hit the subscribe button underneath to see all of our videos. So in this video we're going to talk about meeting. Now what do we mean by the term meeting? Meeting is when you're driving down the road and there's only space for one vehicle to fit past. So you could be driving down a road where there's an oncoming vehicle and someone's going to have to move over. Now, the terminologies that I'm going to use with you now are not commonly used terminologies by instructors. It's more my own thing. But if your instructor teaches it different, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Now, we have what we call different positions of road. Now we have a 1 position road, 2 position, 3 position, 4 position. A 1 position road is a road where there's only space for one vehicle to fit. So something like a country lane or an alleyway, for instance. You don't often get those around London, but there are a couple dotted around and I will show you one of those in a video shortly. Now with a 1 position road, there'll be what's called passing places, and it's important to remember where they are, because if you do drive down that road and there is an oncoming vehicle, you may have to reverse to that space. So it depends on where the closest one is. Don't forget though, you are allowed to mount the pavement as long as you're doing it safely. So make sure you're checking your mirrors, there's no pedestrians that's there. And when you do go up onto the curb, make sure you've got quite a lot of steer on and make it just pop up nice and gently. You don't want to go into it at speed and you don't want to do it with a small amount of steer because you'll damage your tyres in the process. A 2 position road is a road where there's enough space for 2 vehicles side by side. Now on these types of road, whoever's got the obstruction on their side of the road has to give way. So if you imagine you're driving down the road, there's a car parked on your side, like in this picture here, and there's an oncoming vehicle, you would have to be the one to give way. And that's because to go on your journey or to continue your journey, you would have to go onto the wrong side of the road to do so. So therefore it would be their priority. If the obstruction was on their side of the road, then the rules would be reversed. Now a 3 position road would be a road where there is enough space for, again, 3 cars next to one another. Now, if there was one parked car on, say, the left-hand side of the road, your side of the road, and there's an oncoming vehicle, then you can take the middle of the road position and the oncoming vehicle can take the parked right position. So therefore, both vehicles can continue to drive without having to stop. But if there was an obstruction on both sides of the road, then it's an equal opportunity to the centre part of the road because you've both got obstruction, so neither of you have priority. So what I would exercise is what we call defensive driving, which is when you're the bigger person and you allow the oncoming vehicle to go. To show that, what you would do is just slow the car down nice and early and just move slightly over to the left hand side. By doing that positional change, you're allowing them to anticipate what your intention is and they could therefore go. But you also want to be anticipating their movements as well. So if you can see that that vehicle has moved over towards their pavement, or they might flash their lights, remember you're not allowed to do that though. They might wave you on, again you're not allowed to do that. Or you may see them slowing down or stopping, then you can then go. Make sure you check your mirrors before you move back out to the right hand side though, just to make sure there's no one overtaking. Now, if you're in a situation where you're on a gradient, it's an unwritten rule, but what we would suggest is the person going up the hill would have the right of way. It's simply because it's harder for them to pull away from a stopped position than it is for you to carry on driving on a downhill, because gravity does the work for you. Then on the rare occasion, you'll have a 4 position road, which is where there's enough space for, again, 4 cars next to one another. So if there was parked cars on both sides of the road, you could both still carry on your journeys because you're not getting in each other's way or you're not cutting into each other's paths. Now, what we're going to do is talk about the positions that you can go into. And again, these are my own terminologies. So if your instructor doesn't teach it this way, that's fine. It's not an issue at all. There's 3 positions, what I call the hold back, the follow through, and the bully. Now, I know the bully sounds aggressive considering we've been talking about defensive driving, but it's a legitimate way of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with doing that either. Now, the hold back is when you can see an oncoming vehicle and the space is right next to you. And what you would do is just hold back in that space and allow that vehicle to come through. What you could also do though is go to what we call the follow through. Now, the follow through is if you can see a space further down on your side of the road that you can get to before the oncoming vehicle gets there, then you could go for that. And by doing that, you're also making progress. You're trying to get further down the road. So you're kind of almost weaving in and out if there are sporadic cars coming towards you to get out of that scenario. Because what you've got to think is when you're in a meeting situation or on a road which is narrow, the longer you're on that road, the more chance of meeting then happens or more likely to occur. So if you can get down that road quicker, then you're out of that scenario and you can just continue your drive. I'm not saying speed, but try to make progress. If you can keep using follow throughs, that's a good way of doing it. Remember again, always check your rear view and right mirror before you move out. Possibly even check your right shoulder if you could see that there was someone in a parked vehicle or getting in a parked vehicle, or you're near a side street where somebody might be exiting that road. The third position, the bully, is when you can see that there is a space on the oncoming car side of the road, and what you would do is pretty much force them to move into that space. So you would approach that position and slow the car down nice and early and give them ample space to get into that gap. Once they've moved across, check all of your mirrors as you then proceed. Again, try to keep the car moving on all of these as well if possible. Obviously with the hold back it's less likely, but with the follow through and the bully, you might be able to keep the car in motion. Now, there are other occasions where you may have to give way to oncoming vehicles, one of which is priority signage. So that would be signs like these. Now, the square sign, you're the one that's got the priority. You're the bigger arrow, so you would have the right of way. Whereas the round sign is when you've got to give way to the oncoming vehicle. You're the smaller arrow. Now, you might get this as a traffic calming measure, so a permanent fixture to the road, or at roadworks. Now, with roadworks, if it's on a bend, you'll tend to get traffic lights that will do that for you. But if there's a straight part of the road where that roadwork is being worked on, you would then have to think about whether you can go on. So we can see the sign on the left shows that we have the priority here, so any oncoming vehicles would have to give way to us. So this time we can see that we have to give way. We're the round sign, so if there's any oncoming vehicles we would stop here or potentially here. So I hope that's helped so far, and now I'm going to show you what that actually looks like on the drive. So we can see that there's an oncoming vehicle and there's only space for one vehicle here. So what we're going to do is just drive past into this turning point or into this passing point before we then bring it back out. Now, as we're coming up this road, we've got to think about the risk of an oncoming car as well as the danger of having a very wet floor. So when we're coming up to bends, we want to be thinking about either beeping the horn or flashing our lights. So you'll see the reflection in those trees, or you can give it a beep. Now with that car coming, we're just going to go past the turning, up to the passing point, bring it across, then back out again before we then proceed. So as we're turning into this road, we're having a good look, and we can see it looks quite narrow. We've got the parked van there on the left hand side. Now this is a 2-position road, so even though those vehicles on our left are only slightly over the pavement or slightly onto the road, because the obstruction is on our side of the road, we would still have to give way. Whereas in this scenario, where you've got the parked van on the right and the parked car and van on the left, then it's equal opportunity. So we can see here that we've got the huge obstruction on the right hand side, and we've got the oncoming vehicles. Now we've got to be aware that that van might try to pull out here to use the follow through. They've been nice enough to hold back, so it's always good to give them a little thank you just by putting your hand up. Remember, you're not allowed to flash your lights on the test to say thank you. So we can see that we're now driving on a 3-position road. So we're looking for those spaces. We can see that we've got before the Mercedes on the left, the black car. Then we've got the gap on their side before the silver car. So we're going to use the bully technique here. We're going to force them to move across. And then we continue to drive. So you can see it works exactly the same way as just giving way. You're still holding back for them effectively. You're still going to be slowing the car down. But you're not changing your position, you're making them change theirs. So here we're on a 3-position road, and we can see that the parked cars on the right hand side of the road have got specific spaces. So the oncoming vehicle is still on their side of the road when they're going around it. But if we had a parked car on the left hand side of the road as well, we would have to be the ones to give way, because we're going to cross that centre white line onto their side of the road, which is therefore their priority. So take note of where the white lines are, who's got parking spaces. At the end of the day, if you're crossing the centre white line, then it therefore must be their priority. We're going to come up to a steep downhill. Now, remember from what we said before, whoever has to go up the hill really has an unwritten rule of being able to go. They have the right of way. So in this situation, I'm having to cross the white line to go around these parked cars, but I can see the blue car in the distance. So if that blue car was closer, I would have moved into the space just now, whereas I'm going to move over into this one. I'm still keeping the car moving, and then I'm bringing it back out. Remember to check the right mirror. Now see the white van, so I'm already on my brakes. I'm trying to keep the car moving. Now can I get past this black parked car before the oncoming Volvo? Doesn't look like it. He was going far too fast there. So we're just going to hold back, allow them to come through before we can then proceed. Now we can see that there's the oncoming vehicles that have turned into the road, but I've got this space to move into. So again, I'm checking my left mirror, moving across, checking my right mirror, moving back out. So again, I've been able to continue that drive without having to stop. So the road that we're on now is a 4-position road. We can see that there's parked cars on both sides of the road, but there's enough space in the centre for both cars to fit. So even with this blue car, you can see that we can both go without getting in each other's way. If you do have a larger vehicle coming towards you though, so say for instance this van, you may have to think about moving across a little bit, possibly giving way before proceeding. So you can see that the road that we're on is a 3-position road. We've got parked cars on both sides and I can fit through the centre, but there wouldn't be enough space for us and an oncoming vehicle to also fit. So what we're now thinking about is those positions. So we've got a hold back, which is before this Toyota. We've got follow through positions just before the black car and before the before the blue car. We've also got another space a bit further ahead before the BMW, which is the space that I'm going to go for with this oncoming van. So I've just checked my mirrors before moving in, checking my right mirror before moving back out. So I'm just going through this crossroads and we can see that the road opposite has got loads of obstructions. Now if we keep it to this left hand side, we can't see too well, but if we bring it over to the right, we open up our visibility, and that's what we call position for vision for a better decision. So if you're going around the bend, position the car in a way that you can see and be seen earlier. So that allows the vision to be better, and then it allows you to make a better decision. So again, we've got the luxury of being on a 3-position road here, and we're going into this bend. So instead of keeping it in the centre, I'm just going to check my left mirror, bring it over to the left hand side, again position for vision. Now I can see the blue car and I'm already out of the way. I'm going to keep it in the wide position, and by doing that you can see that the red car and this oncoming silver car can both fit. I'm not having to swerve the car out of the way or reverse because my position's already been done on the approach. So just keep it in that wider position until you're 100% it's safe before popping back out again. So again, we can see that there's oncoming vehicles about 200 meters in the distance. We're looking for those spaces. We've got the space before the blue car on the left. We could use the bully technique as well here. So it all depends on which one can keep us moving. So we're going to go for the bully technique instead. Now with the oncoming white car, he's taken that centered position. So we're just going to bring it over to this left-hand side. So we can again keep the car moving, right mirror before moving back out. If we could see that they positioned over towards their curb, we're anticipating that they're letting us go. But because they didn't change their position at all, we know that they're going to make that move to go. So left mirror, moving over for the oncoming vehicle. So we're doing the hold back here really, or the follow through. There's not much difference between the two on that scenario, before checking your right mirror to move back out again. Now yes, the road is clear ahead, but we want to be thinking, what if a car pulls out from the side, or if an oncoming vehicle then turns into this road? So at the moment we can see it's safe, so we can just continue, but we might want to go into this space here on the left. Always think ahead. So I hope you found this video of good use, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.